Hello. So, Dougalbird says, you were telling us last year, after the general election, that reform had peaked at 14% of the vote, and it would go downhill from there. That prediction didn't age well, did it, Tim? Well, I'm afraid I entirely disagree. I think that prediction aged perfectly well. We've not got another election, another real election, for another 4 years, and it's perfectly possible, even probable, to suggest that Reform UK has peaked and that its trajectory now mirrors the historic arc of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, in the early 1980s, a phenomenon of enthusiasm, a burst of public support, and then the inexorable slide into the margins. And I was a great fan of Shirley Williams and of the Big Four, and indeed other people who were aligned like them, like Evan Luard, with whom I used to have dinner regularly in Oxford. Now, firstly, the SDP surged to heights of around 50% in polling at its peak in 1981 to 82, eclipsing the Conservatives and the Labour Party alike. And yet, at the 1983 general election, despite winning 25% of the popular vote, it secured a derisory 23 seats, all through alliance with the Liberals. The first past the post system systematically chokes insurgent parties. No matter the popular support, the geographic concentration matters more than the national sympathy. And Reform UK faces the same brutal mathematics. It may poll double figures, but without densely concentrated regional support and without the machinery of a successful party, it will win almost nothing. Secondly, Reform UK's ceiling is visible. It has consolidated most of the far-right protest vote, but has no credible path to significantly broaden its appeal without sacrificing its core identity. And Farage's brand, trying to push to this working class, I'm not shallow, the immigration anger, the Brexit nostalgia, the outsiderism, limits the party's capacity to present itself as a serious vehicle for government insiderism. Once a protest party reaches its ideological saturation point, it stagnates. Thirdly, the mood music is shifting. The Lib Dems, not Reform, are the beneficiaries of disillusion among centrist, middle-class, moderate, one-nation Tories, a demographic Reform can never reach. And the Lib Dem revival in southern England is especially in affluent, Remain-leaning suburban seats, Hertfordshire, Surrey, Devon, signals that a much larger Lib Dem surge is possible, and their appeal is less toxic to these voters' sensibilities and better positioned geographically to win actual consistencies, particularly as the Lib Dem party machinery is moving towards the centre ground occupied previously by the Conservative One Nation base. Meanwhile, within the Conservative Party, the threat of Robert Jenrick, this more polished, ideologically hardline but superficial statesman-like figure, looms large. Jenrick, who has turned on a dime. Jenrick is the J.D. Vance of the UK. For all his political weakness, has the essential rhetorical apparatus, the clarity, the discipline, the steely, almost mechanical professionalism that Kemi Badenoch absolutely lacks. Kemi Badenoch, she lacks basic communicative competence. Her rhetorical style is combative, unfocused, ill-disciplined, lazy. It lacks the emotional discipline to expand appeal beyond a very narrow base. She is in a holding position on a permanent basis, but that holding position cannot hold together the chaos that she has created. That chaos is enveloping what is left of the Conservative Party, and that chaos is snapping at the heels of Badenoch and anybody who gets in the way. So if Jenrick becomes the principal competitor for leadership, which I think he will be, the Conservative Party could theoretically consolidate around a leader capable of neutralising Reform UK's appeal by offering a respectable hardline alternative without alienating moderate Tory MPs as Badenoch might. I don't think that's going to be. I don't think Jenrick has that ability to do that. At one point he might have done, but he's moved so far to the right in order to grab that Reform oxygen supply, the perception of Tory collapse and the unrecoverable incompetence that Badenoch presents could be consolidated, absolutely, by a generic premiership. Oddly. Oddly, where once, maybe a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, generic represented a possible revival of conservatism, now that same person, that same generic, represents the absolute catastrophe that is facing the Conservative Party. Generic becomes the mini-me of the Conservative Party. I'm told I shouldn't use the word mini-me. Apparently it has another meaning. But yeah, okay. Generic becomes the mini-me of conservatism, the pudenda of reform. And I don't think there's any future in that as an independent existence. The SDP parallel reminds us how a protest surge without structural capacity to win under the first past the post is doomed. And Reform UK has no broader home among centrists or metropolitan conservatives who already are drifting to Lib Dem. Maybe last election they did nothing. Maybe last election they were looking around for a home, as I was. And given the fact that Rejoin has not yet really got off the ground sufficiently, it may have done by the end of 4 years. By the time the next election is due, the Reform Party, the Rejoin Party, might well be taking off sufficiently to be able to grab a lot of those Rejoin leaning voters. But I think the more likely scenario is that people will move towards the Lib Dems, because they won't be moving towards Kemi Badenoch or Jenric's Conservative Party, and they certainly won't be moving towards Farage. And it's a big ask for people who once voted Conservative to now vote Labour, particularly given Starmer and his Chancellor's devastation of the economic handbook that has been in place since Thatcher. Jenric, not Badenoch, certainly has the rhetorical and the political skill set to claw back Reform voters if the Conservative Party wishes to reconstitute itself around a tougher but electorally palatable figure. Reform UK may have peaked, and future polls are likely to reveal the classic fate of British insurgent parties: early noise, later silence. But I think Reform UK is going to be around for a little bit longer. I think it's going to crash heavily at the next election, and I think it's going to have an embarrassed smirk when that election comes round. But I don't think it realizes the downfall it's heading towards. But who am I to who am I to mop the brow of poor Nigel Farage yet again? I think the greatest victory Farage had was getting elected to Parliament. I don't think it's going to continue.